The words hung in the air of Mom's dining room like poison. 23 people, aunts, uncles, cousins, my parents, all nodded in agreement. My sister Sarah stood at the head of the table, glass of wine raised, her voice dripping with practiced concern. Maya has always been like this, she continued, gesturing toward me with her free hand. Takes and takes, never gives back. I've built a successful tech company, helped Mom and Dad with their retirement fund, paid for cousin Jennifer's wedding. And Maya? She can't even be bothered to contribute to Grandma's care facility. I cut another piece of roast chicken. Chewed slowly. Said nothing. Dad cleared his throat. Sarah's right. We've all stepped up for this family. Maya, you're 32 years old. When are you going to start thinking about someone other than yourself? She's been like this since we were kids, Sarah added, settling back into her chair with a satisfied smile. Remember when I shared my birthday money with everyone, and Maya kept hers hidden in that little box? Aunt Linda laughed. Some people never change. I took a sip of water. Looked at my plate. The familiar weight of their judgment pressed down on me, but I'd grown used to it over the years. Let them talk. Let them believe what they needed to believe. What they didn't know, what none of them knew, was that I'd been watching Sarah's company very carefully for the past 4 years. I knew exactly how much of her success was built on the anonymous investment that had saved her from bankruptcy in 2019. I knew because I was that anonymous investor. The story started 7 years ago when I was 25 and Sarah was 28. I just sold my first software company, a data analytics firm I'd built from my apartment, to a larger tech corporation for $180 million. The sale was quiet, handled through multiple LLCs and legal structures that kept my name out of the press. I'd learned early that visibility attracted the wrong kind of attention, especially from family. Sarah, meanwhile, had launched her third startup attempt. The first 2 had failed spectacularly, burning through Mom and Dad's retirement savings and money borrowed from relatives. But she had a gift for presentation, for making people believe in her vision even when the numbers didn't add up. Maya, you should be more like your sister, Mom had said at dinner one night shortly after my sale went through. Sarah's out there taking risks, building something. You're still doing that boring government contract work. I'd smiled and nodded. The government contract work was my cover story. Simple. Unimpressive. It kept questions to a minimum. Sarah's third company, Next Tech Solutions, focused on AI-driven customer service platforms. The idea was solid, but her execution was chaotic. She hired friends instead of qualified professionals. She spent money on premium office space and company retreats while her actual product lagged behind competitors. By 2019 she was 3 months from total collapse. That's when she started calling me. Maya, I need a favor, she'd said over coffee. Just $20,000. Bridge loan until our series of funding comes through. I'd looked at her across the table. My older sister who'd spent our entire childhood getting everything while I got the leftovers. The sister who'd convinced our parents to pay her college tuition while I worked 3 jobs for mine. The sister who'd borrowed my car and returned it with a cracked windshield, then convinced Mom it was somehow my fault. I don't have that kind of money, I'd lied. Her face had hardened. Right. Of course. The selfish one strikes again. She'd walked out without paying for her coffee. 2 weeks later I'd contacted my investment attorney. I want to make an anonymous investment in Next Tech Solutions. $95 million. Structure it so it's completely untraceable to me. He'd raised an eyebrow. That's a significant investment in a failing company. I know what I'm doing. The truth was, I didn't want to watch my sister fail. Despite everything, despite years of being the scapegoat, some part of me still remembered the Sarah who'd taught me to ride a bike. Who'd stayed up with me when I had nightmares at age 6. Before the favoritism, before the jealousy, before everything got broken. So I saved her company. Anonymously. The investment came through a venture capital firm I controlled through a shell corporation. Sarah never knew. She thought she'd finally impressed the big investors, that her pitch deck and vision had won them over. She told everyone it was her business acumen that had attracted major Silicon Valley players. The family had celebrated for weeks. Sarah was the golden child again, the success story, the proof that hard work and determination paid off. And I went back to being the disappointment who worked a boring job and never contributed to anything. Over the next 4 years I watched my investment carefully. I installed professional management through the VC firm's board seats. I brought in actual engineers, real talent that Sarah took credit for recruiting. The company stabilized, then grew. By 2023, Next Solutions was valued at $340 million. Sarah bought a house in the suburbs. Tesla. She started appearing at family dinners in designer clothes, talking about the grind and building something meaningful. Meanwhile, I lived in my modest apartment, drove my 7-year-old Honda, and listened to lectures about my lack of ambition. You could learn something from Sarah, Dad would say every few months. She's really making something of herself. I'd nod. Smile. Say nothing. The breaking point came 3 months ago. Grandma had suffered a stroke and needed to move into a specialized care facility. The costs were substantial, $8,500 per month. Mom sent out a family email asking everyone to contribute proportionally based on income. I'd immediately set up an automatic payment for my share, $200 monthly. I sent it directly to the facility under a corporate account, keeping my involvement quiet as always. Sarah had pledged $3,000 monthly and made sure everyone knew about it. She'd posted on social media about taking care of family and the importance of giving back. 2 weeks later, I'd received a call from the facility administrator. Ms. Chen, I wanted to confirm, you're covering the full cost of your grandmother's care, correct? The payment of $8,500 came through your corporate account. Yes, I'd said. But please don't mention this to my family. I'd appreciate discretion. Of course. Though I should mention that we haven't received any other family contributions despite the pledges. My jaw had tightened. I see. Thank you for letting me know. I'd done some digging. Sarah had never made a single payment. Neither had most of the family. They'd all pledged amounts they wanted credit for, but when it came time to actually contribute, they'd found excuses. Sarah's excuse had been particularly galling. Things are tight with the company right now. I'll catch up next month. Her company, my company really, had just closed a $40 million revenue quarter. That brought us to last Sunday's family dinner. The one where Sarah stood up and called me selfish in front of everyone. I'd sat there listening to her catalog my failures. How I never helped with family events. How I'd skipped cousin Jennifer's wedding. I'd sent a $10,000 gift anonymously, but no one knew that. How I'd never offered to help Sarah with her company. The irony nearly made me laugh. Maya lives in her own little world, Sarah had concluded. She has no idea what it means to sacrifice for people you love. The table had erupted in agreement. Mom had actually teared up, nodding along. Dad had launched into a speech about family values that would have been touching if it weren't so hypocritical. I'd finished my dinner, helped clear the plates, drove home in silence. And on Monday morning I'd sent the email that would change everything. The email to my investment firm was brief. Regarding Next Solutions. Initiate complete withdrawal of all funding. I want the $95 million investment liquidated and board positions vacated within 30 days. Provide formal notice to company leadership today. My attorney called within the hour. Maya, are you certain about this? The company's valuation is strong. This will trigger immediate crisis protocols in their operations. I'm certain. They'll be insolvent within 60 days without this capital structure. The company will collapse. I understand. There was a pause. May I ask what changed? I looked out my office window at the city below. Nothing changed. That's the problem. By noon, Sarah's company had received the official notice. By 2 p.m., emergency board meetings were being called. By 5 p.m., my phone started ringing. I didn't answer. The first voicemail was from Sarah, her voice tight with panic. Maya, something insane is happening with the company. Our primary investor is pulling out. $95 million, just gone. They're not giving us any reason. Have you heard anything through your whatever contacts you have? Call me back. I deleted it. The second voicemail came an hour later, more frantic. Maya, I need you to call me. This is serious. The board is in chaos. Our CFO says we have maybe 2 months of runway without this funding. I don't understand what's happening. Deleted. By Wednesday the word had spread through the family. My phone was flooded with messages. Mom, Sarah needs our support right now. Where are you? Dad, your sister is going through a crisis. Family comes first, Maya. Aunt Linda, now is the time to step up and help Sarah. Show her you care. The irony was almost beautiful. On Thursday, Sarah showed up at my apartment. I watched through the doorbell camera as she knocked, waited, knocked again. She looked exhausted, her expensive clothes rumpled, her usually perfect hair pulled back in a messy ponytail. Maya, I know you're in there. Please. I need to talk to someone and you're the only one who might understand business stuff. Please. I turned off the camera and went back to my laptop. The family emergency dinner was called for Friday night. Mandatory attendance, Mom's text said. We need to figure out how to help Sarah save her company. I arrived exactly on time. The dining room was packed, the same people who'd been there the previous Sunday, but the energy was completely different. Worried faces. Hushed conversations. Sarah sat at the head of the table looking shell-shocked. Thank you all for coming, Mom began. As you know, Sarah's company is facing an unexpected crisis. Her main investor has withdrawn their funding for reasons we don't understand. We're family and we need to come together to help her through this. Dad nodded gravely. We're putting together a family investment pool. We're asking everyone to contribute what they can to help bridge this gap until Sarah can secure new funding. I took a sip of water and waited. I can put in 15,000, Uncle Mike offered. We can do 20, Aunt Linda said, glancing at her husband. Around the table, people pledged amounts. 5,000, 10,000, 8,000. The same people who couldn't contribute $200 monthly for Grandma's care were suddenly finding money to save Sarah's company. The pledges added up to $180,000. A drop in the ocean compared to what was actually needed. Sarah's voice was hoarse. That's incredibly generous. Thank you. But we need millions, not thousands. Without the primary investor, we're looking at potential bankruptcy by August. Mom's eyes turned to me. Maya, you've been very quiet. What can you contribute? Every eye in the room locked onto me. I set down my water glass carefully. I don't think I can help. Sarah's face flushed. Are you serious right now? The one time I asked this family for help and you can't be bothered. I didn't hear you ask, I said calmly. I heard Mom ask on your behalf. This is exactly what I was talking about last week. Sarah stood up, her voice rising. You're selfish, Maya. Completely selfish. I have poured everything into building something meaningful, something that employs 43 people, and you won't even help save it. How much do you need? I asked quietly. Sarah blinked, caught off guard by the question. What? To save the company. How much money do you actually need? Her CFO had clearly given her numbers. We need approximately $95 million to maintain our current operations and growth trajectory. But obviously we're not asking the family for that. We'll restructure, downsize, try to find new investors. 95 million, I repeated. That's very specific. That's what our primary investor had committed. It was the foundation of our entire financial structure. Her voice cracked slightly. 4 years of work, Maya. 4 years of 16-hour days and sacrificing everything. You wouldn't understand. I nodded slowly. Then I pulled out my phone. What are you doing? Mom asked. I opened my email and pulled up the message thread with my investment attorney. Scrolled back 4 years. Found the initial investment proposal and authorization. Turned the phone around so Sarah could see the screen. She squinted at it, confused. Then her eyes widened as she started reading. This is a document about Next Tech Solutions. Her voice was barely a whisper. From 2019. It's an investment authorization for $95 million from. She looked up at me, her face pale. From Cascade Holdings LLC. That's my investment firm, I said simply. Well, one of them. The room had gone completely silent. Sarah's hands were shaking as she held my phone. You've been, for 4 years? I was the anonymous investor, I confirmed. I saved your company in 2019 when you were 3 months from bankruptcy. I installed the management team that actually built your product. I provided the capital structure that let you expand. Every success you've celebrated for the past 4 years was built on my money. Dad's fork clattered onto his plate. Mom's mouth opened and closed without sound. Sarah sank back into her chair, still staring at my phone. But why? Why wouldn't you tell me? Because I didn't do it for credit, I said. I did it because despite everything you're still my sister. I didn't want to watch you fail. Then why pull out now? Her voice was raw. Why destroy everything? I looked around the table at all the faces that had judged me for years. All the people who'd watched Sarah mock me and had nodded along. Last Sunday you stood in this room and called me selfish in front of everyone. You said I never help anyone. Never contribute. Never sacrifice. Kept my voice level calm. And everyone agreed with you. Every single person here. Aunt Linda looked down at her plate. What you didn't know, what none of you knew, is that I've been paying for Grandma's care facility in full since she moved in. All of it. The entire $8,500 monthly. Not the $1,200 I was assigned. The whole amount. Mom's face went white. Maya, we didn't. You didn't know because I asked the facility not to tell anyone. The same way I asked the VC firm not to reveal my identity to Sarah. The same way I've kept quiet about a lot of things. I stood up. I've spent years being the family disappointment while quietly supporting all of you. And you know what I realized last Sunday? It doesn't matter what I actually do. You've decided who I am and nothing will change that. Sarah's voice was barely audible. Maya, please. Don't do this. The company, everyone who works there, they'll lose their jobs. You should have thought about them before you spent years treating me like I was worthless. I picked up my purse. I gave you 4 years and $95 million. I gave this family more than you'll ever know. And the thanks I got was being called selfish at a dinner table. We can fix this, Dad said, standing up. Maya, we're sorry. We didn't understand. No, I interrupted. You didn't ask. That's different. I walked toward the door. Sarah's voice stopped me. What about the company? What about the 43 people who depend on their jobs? I turned back. I gave official notice 30 days ago. That's more than most investors would provide. You have 1 month to find alternative funding, restructure, or wind down responsibly. I suggest you spend less time planning family dinners where you humiliate people and more time actually running your company. You can't just, Sarah started. I'm the majority stakeholder. Or I was. The withdrawal will be complete in 2 weeks. I opened the door. For what it's worth, Sarah, you do have talent. You could have built something real if you'd focused on the work instead of the appearance of success. But that would have required actual sacrifice, and I don't think you know what that word means. I didn't attend any family events for the next month. My phone rang constantly. Mom, Dad, Sarah, various relatives. I let it all go to voicemail. The messages were predictable at first. Bigger. Accusations. How could I destroy Sarah's company? How could I be so vindictive? Was I really going to let my pride hurt 43 innocent employees? But as the weeks passed, the tone shifted. A voicemail from Mom crying, "We were wrong about you. I see that now. Please call me back." A text from Dad, "I've been thinking about all the times we dismissed you. I'm ashamed. Can we talk?" An email from Sarah, long and rambling, switching between apology and anger and back again. I didn't respond to any of them. What I did do was make some calls. 3 of Sarah's top engineers, the ones I'd helped hire through the VC firm, reached out to me directly. They'd seen the writing on the wall and were looking for their next opportunity. I hired all 3 for a new venture I was launching. Double their Next-Tech salaries. I also contacted 7 other Next-Tech employees who I knew were genuinely talented. Offered them positions before the company's collapse left them scrambling. 5 accepted. For the employees who didn't join my new company, I set up an anonymous severance fund, $2.3 million distributed according to tenure and need. They'd never know it came from me. Sarah, I later learned through a mutual connection, spent the 30 days desperately trying to find replacement funding. She pitched to every VC firm in Silicon Valley. She called in every favor she had. She even tried to go to the press with a story about being betrayed by family, but her lawyers advised against it when they realized how badly it would reflect on her business judgment. In the end, Next-Tech Solutions declared bankruptcy on day 29. The tech press covered it as a cautionary tale about over-reliance on single investors. Sarah's name appeared in several articles, though never favorably. 2 months after the bankruptcy filing, I received an unexpected visitor at my new office. My assistant buzzed me. "There's a Sarah Chin here to see you." She doesn't have an appointment but she says she's your sister. I considered turning her away. But curiosity won out. Send her in. Sarah looked different. The designer clothes were gone, replaced by jeans and a simple blouse. Her hair was pulled back in a practical ponytail. She'd lost weight, not in a healthy way. She sat down across from my desk without being invited. For a long moment we just looked at each other. I'm not here to apologize, she said finally. I raised an eyebrow. Okay. I should apologize. I know that. But I don't think you'd believe me, and honestly, I'm not sure I know how to apologize for something this big. She laughed bitterly. How do you say sorry for years of treating someone like they're worthless when you've just discovered they've been keeping you afloat the whole time? You could start with "I'm sorry," I suggested. I'm sorry. The words came out flat, rehearsed. She shook her head. See? It sounds fake even when I mean it. Why are you here, Sarah? She pulled out a folder and slid it across my desk. This is a list of everyone who worked at Nextech. Their contact information, their specializations, their situations. 7 are still unemployed. 12 took positions at companies where they're overqualified and underpaid. 3 are considering leaving the industry entirely. I opened the folder but didn't look at it. And I know you hired some of them. I know you probably helped others in ways I don't know about because that's apparently what you do. Help people secretly while they treat you like garbage. Her voice cracked. I'm not here to ask you for money or to save me. I'm here to ask you to help them. The people who lost their jobs because of my failures. Not because of you. This wasn't your fault, it was mine. But you have the resources to help them and I don't. I studied her face, looking for manipulation or hidden agenda. I saw only exhaustion and something that might have been genuine remorse. What are you doing now? I asked. Contract coding work. Freelance projects. I moved back in with Mom and Dad. She smiled without humor. Turns out I'm not actually good at business. I'm good at coding and decent at vision, but terrible at management and even worse at seeing people clearly. Including you. You were always a good engineer, I said quietly. Even when we were kids you could see systems, understand how things connected. You just got distracted by trying to be impressive instead of being effective. Yeah, well, I learned that lesson the expensive way. She stood up. I don't expect forgiveness. I don't expect a relationship. I just wanted you to have that information in case you wanted to help people who deserved better than they got. She was at the door when I spoke. Sarah. She turned back. I've already hired or helped 21 of your former employees. The remaining ones either found positions on their own or declined my offers. Everyone landed safely. Her eyes widened. When? I started the day I sent the withdrawal notice. I knew what was coming. A tear rolled down her cheek. Of course you did. Because you actually think about consequences. About people. She wiped her face roughly. I spent 4 years being the CEO who took credit for your work. And you spent 4 years making sure nobody got hurt by my eventual failure. The employees weren't at fault, I said. They didn't deserve to suffer because of family drama. No. They didn't. She opened the door then paused. For what it's worth, I voted for Mom and Dad to contribute to Grandma's care. I found out they knew you were paying the whole amount and they'd been pocketing the money they claimed was going to the facility. I'm making them pay it back from their retirement fund. That surprised me. You don't have to. I'm not doing it for you. I'm doing it because it's the first actually ethical business decision I've made in years. She gave me a sad smile. Maybe someday I'll be half as good at this whole, being a decent person thing as you are. But I'm starting from pretty far behind. After she left, I sat at my desk for a long time, looking at the folder she'd brought. It was thorough, detailed, organized. The old Sarah, the one who used to help me with science projects, would have made a list like this. I wondered if people could really change or if they just occasionally remembered who they used to be before life complicated everything. 6 months later, I received an email from an address I didn't recognize. Maya, I don't know if you'll read this, but I wanted to update you. I got a job at a mid-sized tech company, senior developer, not management. It's the right fit for now. I'm learning to stay in my lane and do what I'm actually good at. I'm also in therapy. Turns out being the golden child messed me up in different ways than being the scapegoat messed you up. Not a competition, just an observation. Mom and Dad are still trying to get you to come to family dinners. I told them to stop pressuring you. They don't listen to me about much, but I keep trying. I don't expect a response. I just wanted you to know that some of us are trying to do better. Even if it's too late to matter. Sarah. I didn't respond. But I didn't delete it either. 3 months after that, Grandma passed away peacefully in her sleep. The facility called me first as I'd requested. I handled all the arrangements privately, then notified the family. At the funeral I sat in the back. Sarah sat with Mom and Dad in the front row. We didn't speak. But when Sarah got up to give a eulogy about Grandma's kindness and generosity, she made a point I noticed. Grandma always said that real family isn't about who you're related to, it's about who shows up when it matters. She taught us that love is measured in actions, not words. Sarah's voice was steady. I spent a lot of years not understanding that. I thought love was performances and appearances. Grandma knew better. Some people in this family knew better. Her eyes didn't turn to me, but I felt the weight of her words anyway. I'm grateful I got to spend her last years knowing she was cared for by people who understood what she tried to teach us. After the service, as people gathered at Mom and Dad's house, I slipped away. I had a meeting with my investment team about a new project. A fund specifically designed to help employees affected by startup failures. Anonymous, naturally. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Thank you for everything you did for Grandma. And for not making today about family drama. She would have appreciated that. I looked at it for a moment, then replied for the first time in 9 months. She deserved the best. That's all that mattered. 3 dots appeared, then disappeared. No response came. That was fine. Some conversations didn't need continuing. A year later, my newest company, focused on AI infrastructure for healthcare, raised a $200 million Series B. The announcement made TechCrunch and several other industry publications. This time I didn't hide behind shell corporations. My name was right there in the headlines. Mom called within an hour. Maya, we saw the news. We're so proud of you. Thank you, I said politely. We'd love to celebrate with you. Maybe dinner this weekend? I'm very busy, but I appreciate the offer. Pause. Maya, we know we hurt you. We know we got everything wrong. Is there any way we can make this right? I don't know, I said honestly. Maybe. But it's not something that gets fixed with one dinner or one conversation. We understand. When you're ready, if you're ever ready, we're here. Okay. After I hung up, I looked out my office window at the city below. The same view I'd had a year ago when I'd sent the email that changed everything. I thought about Sarah, working as a senior developer somewhere, apparently building a quieter life. I thought about the employees who'd landed safely because I'd planned ahead. I thought about Grandma, who used to slip me cookies when Mom wasn't looking and tell me that being underestimated was sometimes a gift. The people who truly see you are the ones worth keeping, she'd said once. The rest are just noise. I'd spent 32 years as noise in my family's story. A supporting character, a disappointment, a convenient scapegoat. But I'd built an empire in that background space. Created jobs. Changed industries. Helped people who would never know my name. And I'd learned something valuable. The opposite of being seen isn't being invisible. Sometimes it's being exactly powerful enough to control your own narrative. My assistant buzzed. Your 3 p.m. is here. I turned away from the window. Back to work. Back to building something real. The family drama was behind me. Not resolved, maybe it never would be, but behind me. And that, finally, was enough.